Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into an updated look at the College Football Playoff 2025, the different scenarios, and it is week number 7. I think I'm going to do this every Tuesday as a new little segment on the channel, just going through. I did this last year, just going through these teams, looking at their playoff chances, and also really kind of structuring this properly in terms of how many Big Ten teams, how many SEC teams, how many ACC teams, all the different conferences. I think earlier in the season, well, I guess it's midway through the season, but when it comes to talking about the playoff, we're still very early. We don't even have the first college football playoff committee rankings. It's better to structure it based on conference and what is the overall outlook on each conference. So you have Ohio State and Oregon, the number one and number two teams, according to the Power Index, and certainly in terms of the easiness of their schedules, the fact that the Big Ten is down this year, Oregon already facing Penn State, Ohio State at this point still has to face Penn State, but they face them at home. And people, I mean, is Penn State even good anymore? That's the big thing with the Big Ten, and that's the problem is Penn State was a pillar, and it was Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and then maybe Indiana. Well, now Penn State is like completely out of the picture. And so now it's just Ohio State, Oregon, and then Indiana would be next up. And Indiana's had a very nice start to the year. But based off, I don't even have to go through their schedules. Ohio State and Oregon, outside of something crazy, they are going to make the playoff. I guess you could say, well, if Ohio State somehow loses 2 games, maybe versus Penn State and at Michigan, there could be a problem because if Texas finishes the season like 8-4, because they don't look very good right now, maybe. But I mean, you're talking about a 2-loss Big Ten team. Are they really going to miss the playoff? People might argue it because the Big Ten is down this year. The issue is there's no premier third team, at least right now. Maybe people think it's Indiana. With Indiana, we'll see. This week they face Oregon on the road. They're 7.5-point underdogs. But like, look, the structure of the Big Ten to me, Ohio State and Oregon certainly are in. Indiana, I can prep people for what's going to happen. You have at Oregon, you have at Penn State. Now, Indiana finishes 11-1. They lose on the road to Oregon. They're very likely not going to make the Big Ten championship unless they somehow beat Ohio State in a tiebreaker if Ohio State loses a game, or obviously if Ohio State loses 2 games, then they'd be in front of Ohio State. But let's say they lose at Oregon. They're 7.5-point underdogs versus Michigan State versus UCLA. Those are gimmies. At Maryland. Maryland's, they're an interesting team, but you would think that's probably a win. At Penn State, I really don't know what to make of that game. Indiana at Penn State. People think Penn State is terrible now. They're still a talented roster. They've got a good defense. I get it, though. I understand Penn State does not look good right now. So for Indiana, the question is, they lose to Oregon, they lose to Penn State. They're at 10-2. Do they make the playoff? And that would be dependent on how Penn State finishes. Obviously, if Penn State beat Indiana, they would have to be a decently solid team, you would imagine. Like, they would get it back on track and potentially finish ranked at like 9-3 or something. But is there a chance a 2-loss Big Ten team does not make the playoff? The issue for Indiana is, they've got this win over Illinois, but if Illinois loses to Ohio State by a lot and then Illinois loses another game, Illinois might not finish ranked, or they might finish a fringe top 25 team. You could be looking at Indiana with 0 top 25 wins, even if they beat Penn State. Because if they lose to Oregon, I mean, the schedule, because of the non-conference, is just extremely easy. So I would say Indiana has a really good shot at making the playoff just because of Penn State being down. But you have to wonder, they got to win on the road. And then just taking a look at some of these other teams, you've got Miami out of the ACC, 79% chance. I think Miami, you don't want to say they're a virtual lock, but I'm just going to quickly run through Miami's schedule. I mean, it's the ACC, and you've already gotten by FSU on the road. Louisville, they're like a top tier team in the ACC, but they face them at home. They're going to be like a touchdown favorite, at least in that game. I don't know. What is the FP? Yeah, they're going to be like probably a 14-point favorite in that game. Stanford, SMU, Syracuse. Yeah, these are all very, I mean, on the road at SMU might be a little interesting. These last 2 road games might be interesting. Pittsburgh, it's going to be cold. But yeah, I mean, you really can't say anything about Miami other than they're looking extremely good for the playoff. You have Alabama at a 78% chance to make it. You look at Bama, their road schedule, I think, is very manageable. Like, you look at their road schedule, Missouri. Okay, Missouri, it's a tough game, but Missouri hasn't faced anyone at all of note. So is Missouri really a top 15 team in college football? No, they're not. They just haven't played anyone. But like, their road schedule at South Carolina, at Auburn, I mean, to me, This is palatable. You can say it's a tough schedule. They face Tennessee, but they get them in Tuscaloosa. They face LSU. They face Oklahoma. At that point, is Oklahoma going to be ranked number 6? Is LSU going to be ranked number 11? I don't know. But Alabama, the thing with Alabama that's key, they have 0 SEC losses. So, yes, they have 1 loss against FSU, but because they have 0 SEC losses, they've got the head-to-head tiebreaker over Georgia. They beat them. They're in a spot to where you wonder if they, well, I don't know if they lose 2 games. I think they probably don't make the SEC championship, because then they'd be in the exact same spot as they were last year. If they lost 2 in conference games, they'd be 9-3 overall. And the question is going to be with this 12-team playoff, does a 9-3 SEC team make the playoff? That's always seemingly the question against some of these 10-2 teams from worse conferences. So Bama, do they really have 2 mulligans? Probably not, unless somehow they get a tiebreaker at 9-3 and they make the SEC championship game, then they win the SEC championship. But for me, I mean, you could see a scenario they beat Missouri. They got to beat Missouri. Well, they could lose to Missouri and still make it if they win out, but you got to figure that's got to be a win, again, on the road at Missouri. And then you have another mulligan. So you could lose to an LSU at home. You could lose to an Oklahoma. The thing, it's palatable. The schedule is palatable because the road schedule is it's very forgiving. At Auburn, at South Carolina, at Missouri. So I think Bama, and the reason they're at 78% chance, 78% chance, is because of the fact that they're the number 3 team. Like, that's how highly valued they are. So that goes into the predictions, and also their overall schedule. So you've got Indiana at a 72% chance. So that's 3 Big Ten teams inside of the top 5, it looks like. Yeah, 3 Big Ten teams inside the top 5. You've got Ole Miss at a 71% chance. Ole Miss has 2 potential mulligans remaining. They're 5-0 right now. They've got Washington. They're going to be 6-0. They've got Washington State non-conference game. At Georgia, at Oklahoma, that's going to be a challenge. But you look at this, say they lose to Georgia and Oklahoma. South Carolina, the Citadel, Florida, Mississippi State, they're in a great spot to even finish 10-2 and be like a fringe 8, 9, maybe 10 seed, I would say. But for them, if they do lose those 2 games, man, they really wouldn't have a, I mean, I guess the LSU win is a quality win, but like that is a very, I mean, the road game at Georgia is challenging, but even this year, Georgia, they've shown some cracks. But I think Ole Miss will probably split these games. I think they'll win one of them. So if they win one of them, maybe they go 11-1, they make the SEC championship. But their schedule, I mean, they got the head-to-head over LSU, but I don't think LSU is that good. A lot of these SEC teams are going to cannibalize each other. But Ole Miss is set up with their schedule in a really good spot. They could collapse. They've got 2 tough road games. We'll see, but they have those 2 mulligans. You finish 10-2 in the SEC, you're going to make it. A&M is in a similar spot. A&M at a 66% chance right now. Look at it. So they've got 2 mulligans, 5-0. Versus Florida at Arkansas. You got to have them. You got to start 7-0 if you're A&M. Those are 2 games you got to win. At LSU, they're probably going to be slighter. Yeah, that's like a pick'em game right now. So that's honestly a game they can easily win. At Missouri is a game you think they got to have. Well, if they beat LSU, I guess they don't have to have it. But on the road at Missouri, that's a winnable game. Versus South Carolina, I feel like South Carolina is going to upset one of these SEC teams later in the season. I don't know which one it's going to be. Versus Sanford at Texas. So I don't know what to make of Texas at this point. That's the in-state rivalry game. It's on the road, but Texas does not look good. So maybe that game becomes a little bit easier, even though it's on the road. But if you are A&M, I mean, if A&M loses 3 games, they're not going to make it, obviously. So where would the 3 losses be? At LSU, at Missouri, at Texas. It's a tough road schedule. I mean, it just depends how good Texas is. I think A&M's in a spot, I mean, where they've got 2 potential mulligans. You've got Georgia with like a 60% chance or a 65% chance at Auburn versus Ole Miss versus Florida. That's a neutral site game. Georgia Tech. Yeah, I mean, Georgia can still make it because you beat Ole Miss at home. You got to beat Auburn on the road. You got to beat Florida. Mississippi. Yeah. Georgia can still make it because Texas, we don't know. They might not be that good this year. That could be an easier game for them. Charlotte. They can lose one of these games and still get in. Georgia, that's a palatable schedule. It is. So they had a 60% chance. Texas Tech is the first Big 12 team. Yeah, so Texas Tech is, they just haven't really beaten any. I mean, I guess Utah's a solid team. It's a good win. It's a good win. They 34-10 on the road at Utah. Is it is, but you know how it is with the Big 12. There's just not a lot of there's not that upper echelon talent. There's not that great team. Kansas at home, they're 15-point favorites or 14-point favorites. Arizona State on the road, that's a challenge for them. It is. Arizona State might be, no, they're not going to be favorites because Texas Tech's been blowing everyone out, so their analytics are getting better. Oklahoma State at Kansas, Kansas State's been really bad this year. BYU at home, BYU's still undefeated. UCF, yeah, I mean, it's hard to really predict any of these Big 12 teams. I know people want to separate Texas Tech and say, well, they're way better than all these other Big 12 teams. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. So we'll see. You've got Oklahoma with a 46% chance. So another SEC team. Oklahoma, they are 5-0. They've got the huge game against Texas. It says John Mateer pushing for his return this week. It's so hard to predict. Nobody knows if John Mateer is going to be healthy or not. At South Carolina, Ole Miss at home at 10. That's a tough schedule. I don't think Oklahoma's going to make the playoff. I mean, they have to beat Texas. These games at Tennessee, at Bama, this is brutal. This is brutal for Oklahoma. I mean, if they can finish 10-2 with that schedule, they're going to make it for sure. And Mateer is going to be a lot more healthy later in the season. They have to somehow beat Texas, I think, though, because if they lose to Texas, they'd have to win all these games outside of one. So you could lose to Bama on the road, but you have to beat Tennessee, you have to beat Missouri, you have to beat LSU. You have to beat Ole Miss. Now, the schedule is too tough for Oklahoma, and I don't think they have the skill position offensive talent to win, to go through this schedule. I mean, if they beat Texas, this is setting up nicely where Texas maybe is not that good. So maybe, but I think it's going to be a challenge. They could maybe go 9-3 and then try and argue they should be in over a 10-2 Indiana team or something like that. That might end up being what happens. So you've got Memphis, the group of 5 team. I think the group of 5 this year is super weak. I just don't really see it with the group of 5. I mean, Memphis, they've been blowing everyone out. I mean, but look at this. Look at the context. They beat Arkansas by 1 point at home in a game that Arkansas literally fumbled away. They were going in for a touchdown to win that game, and they fumbled on like the 6-yard line. So that's really the group of 5 team that I think they're going to lose games. I mean, they've got South Florida. Is South Florida Memphis analytically is going to be the favorite in that game. But these are all games I think they're just massive favorites in terms of the spread. Tulane at home. Tulane could beat them maybe. Navy's 5-0, but analytically they're not that good. Yeah, we'll have to see with Memphis. I just think the group of 5 is very weak this year. Memphis has a 39% chance to get that group of 5 auto bid. Missouri, yeah, I don't see any shot in Missouri. I mean, if Missouri makes it, you give them credit. Look at this schedule. Central, this is crazy. I've never seen a team start 6 straight home games. Home. The first road game they have of the year is in mid-October. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be like Big Ten biased, but if there was a Big Ten team that had this to where their first home game was mid-October, we would be hearing about that. Like, come on. And they face Alabama, I get it. Massachusetts, South Carolina, I think South Carolina is underrated, I do. But South Carolina, they face them at home. Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, really? Kansas at home. So it's like, even you face a team like Kansas, it's a home. I think they had a home and home with Kansas, but still, it's like, all right, let's see. Versus Bama, I think they lose to Bama. But there's a lot of people that think they win because DeBoer, has been really bad in road games at Bama. At Auburn, at Vanderbilt. I mean, I could see them losing to Auburn. I really could. At Vanderbilt, that's a tough game as well. Versus A&M. Versus Mississippi State, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas. I mean, their path to 10-2, I think they have to beat Bama in a slight upset because these 3 games and then Oklahoma, I see one loss in these 3 games and then I see them losing to Oklahoma. But if they can beat Bama, maybe they finish 10-2. I've just never seen a schedule like this where a team doesn't have a road game until mid-October. I mean, at that point, that's a little bit ridiculous. You've got Michigan, 32% chance. So this is the other question. Is Michigan now going to be that 4th Big Ten team? Because if it's Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, is it Penn State? Well, they already have 2 losses now. So Michigan they're undefeated in the Big Ten. They have the non-conference loss at Oklahoma. It's a pretty good loss. Now, I mean, they lost by 11 points, but Oklahoma, at least to this point, is a top 10 team. I think they have to beat USC on the road. They have to beat USC. If they lose to USC, that's 2 losses. You lose one more game, you're done. But I mean, this is the Big Ten, and this year the Big Ten is weak. I mean, you look at these games. Washington, that's a terrible game for Washington. 9 a.m. West Coast to East Coast for Washington. Do they get a bye week before that game? I wonder if Washington gets a bye week before that game. No, they don't, but they play Rutgers on a Friday, so they get one extra day rest. Yeah, you got to feel for Washington with that setup. At Michigan State, Purdue, Northwest. I mean, the Big Ten is just weak this year. But I mean, honestly, the Big Ten always lacks depth. And then they've got, of course, Ohio State. Are they really going to beat Ohio State again? I can't see it. I'm sorry. At some point, Ohio State has to beat Michigan. It just has to happen. I mean, is Ryan Day really going to be 1-5 against Michigan? And this is a Michigan team that struggles to throw. But I mean, they struggled to throw last year. I hear you. But every year it's different. It is. But I mean, dude, honestly, Michigan is probably in a spot because of this schedule where, I mean, at Maryland maybe could be challenging, but like even if they lose to USC, so they have 2 losses. Washington at home, they're going to be favorites. At Michigan State, it's a rivalry, but they're going to be favorites. Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland. I mean, they're set up to be 9-2, playing Ohio State, possibly to go to the Big Ten championship. Michigan. Although I don't know how the tiebreakers would work because if they lose to USC, they're going to have 1 loss and USC is going to have the tiebreaker over them because USC still only has 1 Big Ten loss themselves. So I don't know how that would work, but even if Ohio State was undefeated in conference going into that Michigan game, Michigan beats them. They both have 1 loss. Michigan gets the tiebreaker over them. So I think Michigan's in an interesting spot. If they can win at USC, they're probably going to be like a top 12 team, and we're going to have to start talking about them again, as an actual contender. But I don't see it. I don't see it with their offense. I think they're going to lose to USC. Vanderbilt had a 31% chance. I don't see Vanderbilt making it. I think Vanderbilt's probably a 4-loss team. They get LSU at home, Missouri at home. This is why the SEC is going to cannibalize itself, all these tough games. At Texas, versus Auburn, versus Kentucky, at Tennessee. They're going to lose 4 or 5 games. Vanderbilt will. I can just tell from that schedule. LSU had a 31% chance. LSU, I don't think LSU is going to make it. I just haven't been high on LSU all season. They might honestly lose to South Carolina. South Carolina is an underrated team. At Vanderbilt versus A&M, at Bama, at Oklahoma. They're going to lose at least 2 more games. Brian Kelly is not going to make it again. I don't see them going 10-2 with that schedule. They might try and argue as a 9-3 team, but I don't see it. You've got BYU. BYU is undefeated. The thing is, yeah, this is challenging for BYU. At Arizona, it's basically a pick'em game. At Iowa State, at Texas Tech, at Cincinnati. This is a challenging schedule for them. Like, these are all solid teams. Versus Utah. Yeah, there's no way. I think BYU might lose 3 games in these next 7. It's just a tough schedule for them. Tennessee with a 27% chance at 4-1, probably because their schedule is very challenging. Arkansas should be a relatively easy win. At Bama, they lose to Bama, that's 2 losses. At Kentucky, you got to win that game. Versus Oklahoma, honestly, I could see them going 10-2. They could lose to Bama and go 10-2. They don't really have a crazy hard road game. Florida is. We'll see. I do want to see where Texas and. Where's Texas and Penn State? So this is Texas at a 22% chance. At Georgia versus A&M. I mean, these other games are kind of gimmies. Even facing Vanderbilt at home. That's a noon game. It's already been set. Yeah, it's hard to say Texas is going to make the playoff. They've looked so bad. I mean, they have an outside shot, I guess. And then where is... Penn State's down at a 2% chance to make the playoff. Wow. So Penn State with 2 losses now. I mean, they're going to probably struggle at Iowa. That's a 7:00 Peacock game, Iowa. They've got the game at Ohio State. You lose to Ohio State, they're going to be put out of their misery. They're going to have 3 losses. They get Indiana at home. So they've got at Iowa, at Ohio State versus Indiana. I mean, it could really fall apart for Penn. If they lose those games, they're going to be like a 7-5 team. They might even lose to Nebraska, maybe. I don't think they'll lose to Nebraska at home, but who knows? I mean, the problem is, the loss to UCLA was so bad for them. It just destroyed all of their analytical, value, all of their analytical numbers. So, I mean, I would say right now and you also have a team like USC. Now, USC has one loss, but they've got that non-conference game at Notre Dame. That's a big challenge for them. They've got that in-conference loss. That loss to Illinois is so crippling for USC. Oh, they needed to win that game because they could easily lose to Notre Dame and be fine. But that's an in-conference loss. That's a game you got to win if you're USC. It's unacceptable. I know it's a noon game. You're traveling West Coast to kind of the middle, I guess the Midwest area. But it's a tough one. At Notre Dame, they're going to be underdogs in that game. At Nebraska's challenging. These are 3 challenging games. Michigan at home, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska. And then they have Iowa, but they host Iowa, so you'd think. And then at Oregon, yeah, they're going to end up with 3 losses at least. Because you've got at Notre Dame, at Oregon, and then even at Nebraska. And even versus Michigan's like a pick'em. But I think they beat Michigan. I can't see USC making it. But other than that, that's basically it. From the Big Ten, I think you're looking at Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, and then maybe Michigan. But I can't really see another team from the Big Ten. I guess we could just go by conference. From the ACC, it's going to be Miami. Man, outside of Miami, it's looking like a one bid league. Virginia, I don't think Virginia is going to be even in the ACC championship, but Georgia Tech is undefeated, and they face Georgia at the end of the season. I mean, but Georgia Tech's a team that'll probably go 10-2 and then lose to Miami in the ACC championship and have 3 losses and be out. Yeah. I see only Miami getting in at this point. I mean, you've got the American. North Texas is 5-0. If North Texas beats South Florida, that could be interesting for the American. They could have 2 teams with a possible chance. The Big 12, I think only Texas Tech makes it right now. I don't see BYU getting in. It's going to be one. It's going to be one out of the ACC, one out of the Big 12. The Big 10, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. I with the schedule, I can't see USC making it. It's just too tough of a schedule. Michigan is really the only other hope. With Penn State now basically eliminated. If they want 4 teams in, it'd have to be Michigan. But even Michigan, I really don't have much faith in them making it. Illinois. The problem for Illinois is they got just dominated by Indiana, and now they have to face Ohio State, and then they're at Washington. They could lose to Washington on the road, Indiana, or Illinois, I should say. That's what I'm talking about. Illinois. They could lose to Washington on the road. It's a challenging travel situation. These other games are manageable for them, but they could lose these next 2 games. They're going to be gone. They lose those next 2 games. Other than that, yeah, so I think maybe it's going to probably be 3 teams. It's probably going to be Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. That would be my guess. Maybe Michigan. Conference USA now. Notre Dame, 16% chance. Well, the issue for Notre Dame is the schedule situation. So you look at their 2 losses are amazing. They have a very close loss at Miami. People are arguing Miami's the number 1 team in college football. They lost by 1 point to Texas A&M. Texas A&M's an undefeated top 10 team, possibly top 5 team in college football. That was a game they very easily could have won against A&M, by the way. They've annihilated the other 3 teams. NC State, USC. Now we'll see with USC. If USC beats Michigan, USC is probably going to be a top 20 team in the AP poll. So that could be a decent win for them if USC beats Michigan. But these other games, at Boston College versus Navy, well, Navy is undefeated, but analytically, I don't think they're, look at that, 96% chance. That spread would be like 24 points. At Pittsburgh, Syracuse, at Stanford, it's a bad schedule. The issue is, it's looking like they could finish 10-2, but they're not going to have a ranked win. The good thing for Notre Dame is their 2 losses would be great. I do think, Miami might be able to finish 11-1 or 12-0, but I think Texas A&M is going to lose some games. I don't think that loss is going to look nearly as good because I think A&M is going to lose some games. But A&M is still going to be a decent team. So Notre Dame, they potentially can make it. It'll be dependent. They finish 10-2, but they're not going to have any great wins. MAC, nobody is making it. Mountain West, UNLV, they're 5-0, but they have some really close games against bad teams. Pac-12 or the Pac-2. SEC, this is where it's like, well, how many teams does the SEC get in? They're going to get 4 teams in, I can tell you that. The question is, Because if the Big Ten gets 3 instead of 4, does the SEC end up getting another one? You really can't predict who's going to make it because all these teams are going to beat each other. So, I mean, I think right now, I guess Bama is looking decent, although they already have one loss. It's out of conference, though. Ole Miss, because their schedule is looking decent. A&M, because of their schedule, is looking decent, and they have 2 mulligans. So it's like these 3 teams, they're looking all right, but it's just so hard to predict the SEC because it's such a mosh pit at the top. It really is. It's so hard to predict it. I mean, they're going to get 4 teams. I just don't know which 4. And then, a 9-3 SEC team is going to try and argue to make it for sure. But Old Dominion at 4-1. Yeah, Old Dominion's a pretty good team this year. The Monarchs. I mean, I don't even know what to say about those games, though. They're probably not going to make it. So that's basically just the update in terms of the playoff, guys. Make sure you like the video down below. Also, follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.